Okay, let's go ahead and call the Planning Commission to order at, 6:02 p.m. If we could please have roll call.
Commissioner Rodriguez Ceja,
Present.
Commissioner Isiano,
Present.
Commissioner Fajardo,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Lopez,
Present.
Chairperson Franz.
Present. Okay, we can have the Pledge of Allegiance, and Christian, if you don't mind leading us, thank you.
Me too.
Okay, we will now move on to item number 3, which is public comment for items not on the agenda. Do we have any requests to speak?
There are none.
Okay, if there's no request to speak, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time and move on to item number 4, minutes from the December 13th, 2023 meeting. Do we have any comments, or do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second the motion. Okay, if we can have roll call, please.
Commissioner Rodriguez Ceja,
I'll abstain.
Commissioner Isiano,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Lopez,
Yes.
Chairperson Franz.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we'll proceed with public hearing items. Item 5.1, request for conditional approval of tentative map to subdivide. We can have staff, please.
Good evening, Planning Commission, and Happy New Year. For the record, I'm Kevin Snyder, Director of Community Development. I am pinch hitting for Kendra Reef, Principal Planner, who has been befallen by the flu. So this is her project, so if I do anything wrong, let me know. But the project before you is a tentative parcel map. It is intended to provide for the subdivision of approximately 3.3 acres into 2 parcels of land. The property that is the subject of the subdivision is along Highway 111, on the south side of Highway 11. It's actually addressed as 80545 Highway 111. There is no development proposed, and this is for financial purposes only. Under the city's current subdivision regulations, and I'll briefly go through here just to give you some context. I will if I can get this to work. There we go. All right, so again, tentative parcel map, project is along Highway 111. The current general plan designation is mixed use neighborhood, and the current zoning is mixed use corridor and neighborhood general. This is based on the adopted Highway 11 corridor specific plan. Project location is shown on the map. This kind of gives you context as to where I just described it to be. This is the tentative parcel map. Again, we're looking at the subdivision of the property into 2 parcels of land, and the one parcel will be, parcel 1 will be 1.19 acres, and parcel 2 will be 2.19 acres. Because this is the Highway 11 corridor specific plan, we don't have minimum parcel sizes, but they have to demonstrate at time of future development, if the property is developed, that they can comply with that plan. So again, in the staff analysis, we determined that it was compliant with the general plan for the City of Indio, as well as the Unified Development Code. It also complies with the Subdivision Map Act. And with the application of relevant conditions of approval, it can be approved. And as a reminder, any conditions that the commission was to recommend to council and the council was to adopt would be binding. So staff is recommending that the commission approve resolution number 2080. Again, this is a recommendation to the city council. This will go to city council, and they will conduct their own public hearing and make the final decision. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff at this time?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Kevin, I'm curious with the subdivision now that the vacant land is going to 2.9 acres, what's the residential density allowed? How many units per acre if they were to develop housing there now?
Excuse me. So it is based on the overall density allowances for the general plan. So mixed-use neighborhood allows up to 40 dwelling units to the acre. Basically, there's a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 40. So somewhere in that range, if they were to propose future residential development, they would need to develop at a minimum of 20 dwelling units to the acre and a maximum of 40.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing then for this item. And I don't know if the applicant is here or if anybody's going to speak on their behalf.
I think we might have a representative coming forward.
Okay, great. Come on up, please. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Mercedes Herrera, and I'm the owner of the land. I just want to divide it, but I don't know exactly what I'm going to do in the future. I just want to sell it for a development. That's it.
Perfect. Are there any questions for the applicant? No? All right. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public on this item?
There are none.
Okay, seeing none and having none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Do we have any questions or comments from the commission, or do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2080, recommending conditional approval of case file number 23-05-46 to our city council.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we can have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Rodriguez Ceja,
Yes.
Commissioner Isiano,
Yes.
Commissioner Fajardo,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Lopez,
Yes.
Chairperson Franz,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and move on to item 5.2, which is a conditional approval for planning review of a West End materials supply for office and building development. We can have staff report, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Nico Gatron, Planning Technician with the Community Development Department. Today I will present the project West End Material Supply, case file number 2023-0653. The project applicant, Mike Kradenberger, is proposing the commercial development of 2.11 acres for material storage and sales purposes, located at Assessor's Parcel Number 612-110-045, 046, 047, and 048. The property carries a general plan designation of Workplace Employment District and is zoned within the heavy industrial zone under the Unified Development Code. The proposed project is located southwest of Commerce Street and is comprised of 4 separate parcels. The site plan pictured here shows the development having 2 separate entrances and exits located at the northern portion of the project site, which is east and west of when the project is completely, when there's a lot line adjustment to make it one whole parcel. You'll have one entrance and exit at the west end of the project and another at the east end of the project. The expected total square footage is 29,770 square feet, which will be a 2-story office building with 2 enclosed lumber storage buildings. The project applicant submitted a landscape plan showing drought-tolerant vegetation that will be planted throughout the parking lot as well as the perimeter of the property, as shown here. The project is compliant with the City of Indio General Plan 2040 and the City of Indio Unified Development Code. With relevant conditions of approval, the project can be approved. Conditions of approval are binding and must be adhered to. Staff recommends to approve Resolution 2079 of the Planning Commission of the City of Indio, conditionally approving the planning review for West End Material Supply. Thank you. The project applicant is here if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions of staff at this time? Commissioner?
Sure. Nico, good evening. Thanks for the presentation. I'm curious, could you talk a little bit more about the parking space requirements? Was looking at the Unified Development Code, and we're saying that we could not exceed 150% of the required minimum. And so I'm just curious if there was any sort of special accommodation that was done, or if I'm doing my math wrong.
I know that the parking is to have 65 parking stalls, which include, I believe, parking for the trucks as well. Off the top of my head, Kevin, I don't know if you can help me.
Yes, so basically we have multiple uses occurring on the site. So when we do have that, we typically look at it as a combination of the uses. So in the staff report, there is 65 parking spaces proposed and addressed. And that does comply, when you combine the various uses, that does comply with the Unified Development Code. So it is compliant, and it does not exceed the 150% requirement in terms of what your concern is, Commissioner. So it is compliant, and that was determined by staff prior to the issuance of the staff report.
Okay, and so we're doing an accommodation because of the uses, but if it's based on the square footage, right? So I was running my numbers. It's about 150. It was 23 required spaces. 150% brings that what to?
Well, you have two uses occurring on the property. You have warehouse use and you have office use. So what the code directs is that when you have multiple uses, you look at the individual numbers and the individual uses and the parking requirements associated with them, and you combine them. So that's how the 65 parking spaces were achieved. And we're not accommodating them. It is compliant, but it's not one standard parking requirement. It's a multiple parking requirements based on the multiple uses occurring on the property.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
Yes, I wasn't
No,
sure because I was looking at
question.
the square footage, and I said, well, the minimum requirement is 23. 150% over 23 is not 65. So I was getting a little concerned that we were accommodating and creating more parking space than was needed. So
No, and it's a great question, and just as a reminder for the commission and members of the public, the commission and the council did develop in the Unified Development Code a parking maximum, which is the 150% you're referring to. So at a given point, if a project was to propose in excess of 150%, that would not be allowed. But in this instance, parking requirement, and they are in compliance.
Perfect. Any other questions for staff at this time? No? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and we welcome the applicant.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Steve Egan. I am a representative for the applicant. Michael Kratenberger is here. And they have said, if you have any further questions on the matter, please, you can address them to myself. We're happy to get this project started and looking forward to providing some, obviously, employment in the area, as we know it's much needed, and of course excited to expand the operations of their company. Mr. Kratenberger, or Steve, if you have anything to add? No? Okay.
Any questions of the applicant? So I just have one question. You mentioned jobs, always important. How many jobs will you guys have? Full-time, part-time, combination, year-round?
Yes, they would be full-time jobs. And they would, do you know, have an approximate number of how many this will generate?
Before we, if someone wants to speak, they do have to come
They
to the
do have to come.
microphone
So
so
if
we
you
can
wanna
record
have-
it.
Yes. So Steve, you would,
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Steve Combs, and we're with, three of us are with West End Material Supply. We have two locations at the present time. Or, you want to count San Bernardino too? We have three locations, actually. Well, that one's in process, but we are operating out of there. We are distributor. We sell to contractors. We sell to certain types of plastering contractors, drywall contractors, also masonry contractors. We've been in business, if you go back to the beginning, it started about 1978, around there, Mike? And it changed its name in the early 90s to West End Material Supply. It used to be called West Coast Building Materials. And interesting, West Coast Building Materials was one of my first customers when I was a vendor. And when I decided to retire, Mike called me up, no, you're too young to retire, come work for me. I've been there for about 12, 13 years now. The company has grown quite a bit, and we've outgrown our yard space in Rancho Cucamonga. Our Victorville operation is doing very well, and we have a lot of customers in this area. We supply a lot of jobs out into the entire Coachella Valley, and we're bringing it out from Rancho Cucamonga. We have trucks coming out here almost every day. The price of fuel and everything else, it makes sense to have a yard out here. Our contractors are asking us to have a local pickup spot, and we kicked it around, and we finally decided to maybe take a look at it, and then it became real. We're really anxious. We've been, I think we bought the property over a year ago, and we didn't think it was going to take this long, but looks like we're making some progress now. Hopefully, we can just push right through and start construction and get this thing open and start hiring people and supplying jobs.
How many jobs do
We're
you
not
think?
sure how many employees it will grow to. I mean, our yard in Rancho Cucamonga, we have probably 35, 40 people. However, that's an established yard. And we could grow to that point, but at first it's not going to be that many employees. However, we want to grow the company to that point, and that's our desire. Be approved and get going on this thing.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions of the applicant?
Just a quick question. So who is your primary customers? And in addition to that, are you more of a storage facility for materials and supply or distributing to other places and locations that may need that material and supply that you provide? I'm curious as to what that commerce looks like.
We supply, our customers, as I said, are contractors, and we have contractors out here that are working with us, but they don't buy exclusively from us. There's other suppliers similar. However, our customers are pretty loyal, and they like the way we operate, and we're very very good at service, and our pricing's competitive. We expect to do very well out here. These are all contractors, and we sell to them. And we buy from the vendors, and these vendors don't sell to the contractors. So the way it works is a manufacturer, we would buy from them, and then we sell to the contractors. And we sell to licensed contractors that do legitimate jobs, and quite a few contractors out in the area. I don't know if you want to come up and say something about that, Miguel? Miguel's our principal salesperson out in this area, and Mike is the owner, and Steve is our engineer and architect, kind of.
Yeah. Okay,
So that's pretty much a
it's a good snapshot.
description of our operation.
Good, thank you. Any other comments,
Yes,
questions?
please.
One more?
I was curious if there was, I noticed that in that surface parking lot area, there is no landscaping, and I'm wondering if there's an operational reason, and if you could maybe talk a little bit more about that so that we can understand why there was no landscaping done to that large surface area.
Let the other Steve handle that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. It being a service yard and the ability to deliver materials in and off the site would require the open space to accommodate large vehicles, trucks, tractor trailers, things of that nature. So any kind of landscaping in that area would essentially be run over eventually by the vehicle traffic and having to accommodate the larger trucks and freight deliveries that would be required for a facility like this.
So it's going to be doing dual work. It'll act as a parking space sometimes, and then when you guys are doing operations, it'll play as a loading zone?
Yes, there is a designated loading area. We have docks, loading docks as part of the project, and the configuration of the parking is to mainly allow for the truck traffic to primarily get around the designated parking areas. But if we need a little extra room, we have that area of unused parking space we can use to help get trucks loaded and unloaded.
All right, thank you.
And I just would note, for the benefit of the commission, if you haven't looked at it already, or you want to pull it up, there is a landscape plan that is part of the package. It shows perimeter landscaping as well as landscaping around the on-site surface storm drainage facility. This is fairly typical what we see with these type of developments because of the need for vehicular movement and storage. Typically, you'll see landscaping on the perimeter. So from staff's perspective, this, number one, it was consistent with the Unified Development Code. Number two, it's fairly consistent operationally for this type of more industrial use. So staff did find it in compliance.
Okay.
And just as a comment, I did notice that you guys went above the tree minimum requirement for the parking, so I appreciate that. I just wanted to mention it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We like trees. Any other comments? No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this item?
There are no more public.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Does anybody have any more questions of staff? Or do we want to deliberate, or do I have a motion?
I'll go ahead and motion to approve Resolution 2079 of the Planning Commission of the City of Indio, California, for conditionally approving the plan review for West End Materials Supply, case number 2023-0653.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Rodriguez Ceja,
Yes.
Commissioner Isiano,
Yes.
Commissioner Fajardo,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Lopez,
Yes.
Chairperson Franz,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue with our public hearings. Item number 5.3, resolution number 2082, recommending City Council the approval of Pacific Plan Amendment. We can have staff report, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. Again, Kevin Snyder, Director of Community Development for the record. So this particular item before you is a little bit different. So what it is seeking, I'm just waiting for the PowerPoint to come up. What it is seeking is a specific plan amendment to a specific plan that was adopted a very long time ago. It was adopted by the City Council in 1995. It's called the Gateway Specific Plan, and it incorporates a large percentage of Northwest Indio. So, for example, Sun City Shadow Hills is covered by the Gateway Specific Plan, and other development in that area as well. This specific plan, the majority of the land covered by it has not developed. And in fact, it is not consistent with the General Plan 2040, which was adopted in September 2019, so almost 25 years after that. So the applicant, which is Kanye Companies, they have purchased approximately 10 acres, and the property is shown on your screens. and they are interested in doing more intensive development of the property than that's currently allowed by the Gateway Specific Plan. The Gateway Specific Plan would limit it to about roughly 10 dwelling units to the acre. This is mixed-use neighborhood, which would allow for much more substantial, anywhere between 20 to 40 dwelling units to the acre. So they have come before the city, and here's the very old Gateway Specific Plan map, hand-drawn from 1995. And what they're proposing, this is indicative of the kind of project that they're proposing, they would like to do more intensive development. In order to do that, they would need to be removed from the Gateway Specific Plan and be allowed to go under both the, well, they're already under the existing mixed-use neighborhood. They would need to have applied an appropriate zoning designation to implement that. So out of an abundance of caution, they first wanted to come before the Planning Commission and the City Council and get your okay, if you will, to be taken out of the Gateway Specific Plan. If that ultimately occurs, then it's their intent to come forward with a development proposal. But if for some reason they were not approved for that, they did not want to expend the resources, put together all the plans and information that's required if ultimately the council and the commission was to say no to the request to be removed from the Gateway Specific Plan. So that is why we are here. It is consistent with the Unified Development Code as it pertains to amendments to specific plans. It is also consistent with CEQA. This falls under what's called the common sense exemption, which basically says there is no real significant environmental impact from the action. This is simply removing property from a specific plan. Any future development would have to go through a separate review that would include CEQA, and this commission and perhaps the council, depending on the nature of the project, would ultimately be reviewing and making a determination of environmental compliance. So again, there's a separate process. Tonight, it's simply asking the commission to consider recommending to the council the removal of this property from the Gateway Specific Plan. And so we are recommending that you approve resolution number 2082. Happy to answer any questions the commission might have, and I do believe the applicant is present to answer any questions you might have as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of staff at this time?
Kevin, can you pull up the map, the most detailed one that you have, where I can see the streets?
Good point. This is along Avenue 42. This is west of Monroe Street. It is, if you see where it says site, it is adjacent to the most southern portion of Sun City Shadow Hills. And this is an area that on the north side of Avenue 42, basically between Monroe and Clinton, it's largely undeveloped. There's some limited residential structures out there, but largely undeveloped.
So is it just that portion where it says site?
Just that portion where it says site, approximately 10 acres.
Because just to the right up above is my house, so wasn't sure if I could, if I need to recuse myself.
Well, that's a good question. Can you hold for 1 second? I'll check. You may be outside of the 500 or 1,000 square foot. We'll double check that, Commissioner. So if we can take a momentary recess.
Sure. Let's take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
You're okay. You're outside of it.
Okay.
You're
Thank you.
actually significantly outside of it.
Yeah. I didn't know if it goes like my actual property to like the border. How do you guys pull it up and it gives a radius? Perfect. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Now take them away, please.
Okay, we'll go ahead and restart the meeting at 6:32 PM. And Kevin, I think you had a statement.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Ciano had asked for confirmation that his residence was outside of any potential conflict area, either the 500 or 1,000 foot that is mandated by the state for potential conflict of interest. The Assistant City Attorney and I have reviewed the city's conflict map and have determined that he is not in any conflict area, so he is eligible to participate in any consideration on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and continue. Were there any other questions of staff at this point?
Yes,
Christian?
Chair. So, not specific to this particular resolution, but if this is this something that is like an occurrence? Like, do we have an overlay with the general plan that isn't necessarily matching this specific plan, and are we going to do something about it?
That's a great question, Commissioner. We have specific plans and project master plans that have been adopted in this city. The majority of them are in conflict with the General Plan 2040 because many of them were adopted in the late 90s or early 2000s. One of our implementation actions is to go back and engage with property owners. In some instances, it may not make a lot of sense. For example, if a project's fully built out, they would obviously want to preserve that. If it's a site that's been vacant, that has not been developed, but we, the city, cannot unilaterally remove them from the specific plan or project master plan. It would have to be with agreement and concurrence. So at a future date, we hope to be able to make those engagements and see who and if property owners want to be taken out. Again, for example, the Gateway specific plan, it's approximately, I think, 2,200 acres that it covers roughly, and the majority of the lands in that have not been developed, so it may be advantageous for some to look at a different designation.
I have a follow-up question. Is this process at all out of the cost of the property owner to go through this process now?
Yes, a specific plan amendment has a city council designated fee on the city's master fee schedule, so they did have to pay an application fee in order to be able to have this process by the city. At a future date, if the city was to go forward and sponsor this, there would not typically be any cost incurred by property owners, but until such time if a property owner wants to do it, so to speak, on their own, they do have to incur those costs.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff at this time? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and if the applicant would like to address the commission, we'd welcome you at this time.
Marty Coyne of Coyne Companies. I'd like to introduce my daughter, Courtney Coyne. She's part of our project management team. We're a development company from Imperial Valley, and we have developed, our specialty has been multifamily homes and single-family subdivisions over the last 30 years. And last year or two, we came back into Coachella Valley, took an interest in it, especially in your city, but we took a shot at building some R2 properties there along 40, I think it's, 42nd Street, I think, in Bermuda Dunes. And we came across this piece and had an interest in it, and that's what brings us before you today. We are the applicant, and we've already purchased the property. We are the owner. I believe, and I don't know if you're the same commission, but we came before the commission, your commission, about 18 months ago. We wanted to make sure that we had support of the city before we closed escrow on this property. And staff, your planning staff was very helpful and supportive, and I came before you if you guys were part of Planning Commission back then. And the reason we're in front of you now, we own it, we have plans, we're moving forward. And as far as are we paying our fair share and way, yes we are. This application fee was $10,000, just to kind of let you know. So we're serious. We're hoping this is one of many projects that we're going to do here. And we'd like to share, and I don't know if it's part of our clicker, or Courtney, if you can help me kind of click, little PowerPoint to kind of show you, we have a concept drawing. Okay, cool. Hopefully it's all going to work good. There we go. That pretty much shows already what your plan director, Mr. Snyder's already showed you. The old specific plan dated almost 30 years ago, of course, and we felt there was needs for change. It kind of capped out at about 10 units to the acre, and obviously times have changed. Demand for housing is very, very important. All the cities have a housing element to try to please the state of California. More units, more units, more units. And so when we looked into it, and your general plan 2040 states for mixed use, anywhere from 20 to 40 units to the acre. We noticed that this particular parcel, we'd love to continue to growing in the area. So this first initial acquisition was 10 acres. There's another 10 acres. Hopefully we can acquire once we're successful in the first one. And we'd love to do some single family also in your community, in your city as we move forward. But again, once we saw that your general plan was already stated for mixed use, it made us want to put forth the effort and move forward. So let me see if we kind of click this. Once again, I think this has more to do with the old specific plan rather than your current general plan. This is just kind of a quick site plan we put together. And again, our specialty has been, we're getting ready to do a site like this, a building in El Centro. We're in for building permits actually right now. The way we've done, we know activities and recreation is really important. So we did a large community center, pickleball. We got an activity center again with swimming pool, barbecue, all the activities, walking around paths, etc. So that's just kind of a concept. We're not at the point ready to submit for building permits. We have to go through the process still. This will give you an idea of the recreation area, pool, community building, pickleball courts, and other recreational activities. Tot lot, playground, barbecue, social area, et cetera, et cetera. This is your concept drawing or rendering that we put together of what it'll look like at build out. As you know, it's just raw ground over there right now. This particular property, if you saw the map, is probably about a half a mile west of Walmart. And just kind of give you an idea where it's going to be. But this is our vision. We feel that single family homes were to the north of us. We feel a higher density and going 3-story was just not a good fit. So, and I think we brought that before you when we were here about 15 months ago, and I think your commission agreed with us. So this is going to max out at 2 stories, and this is just kind of a concept, but this is the direction we're going, and that's what our plans are. Right now, we're looking at about 185 units. We may be able to squeak a little bit more, but still roomy enough, gives the recreation areas that we want. It is going to be gated and secured. In the world we live in these days, it's really important. I do want to point out to you that this is not a low-income project. What we're doing in Imperial Valley, and we've been very, very successful at, is I call ourselves mid-market for the average affordable middle-income type people. It's not very super high-end luxury, but we feel it'd be a great fit in your city, and we've been very successful with our projects that we do like this in Imperial Valley. And I'm happy to answer any other questions. Let me see, there may be a couple other rendering shots. That's just a different angle shot, like so. Different angle, entryway, community building, offices, and other than closing, thank you for the opportunity to present our Bella Vita project in the beautiful city of Indio. I think it's great what you guys are doing. You're definitely a happening city, and we'd like to be part of it. And our history, we've done business with every city in Imperial County, including the county of Imperial, and so Coachella Valley is new for us, but again, we're anxious to make a change and grow forward. Without a doubt, Coachella Valley is growing a heck of a lot faster than Imperial Valley, and we'd like to be part of it. So, thank you.
Thank
Happy to
you.
answer any questions for you.
Are there any questions of the applicant at this time? Nobody? I have one. I think you mentioned you built something in, was it Bermuda Dune?
Past the airport, is that 42nd Street? Yeah, it is. Okay, so just kind of, we have grandkids and children that live up here, and so it's just kind of like looking around one day, and my wife said, why don't we try a little project up here and see how it goes? Granted, it was the unincorporated, or the county of Riverside, but there were some spotty lots. If you guys have been in that area there, it's been abandoned for years, and so it was 3-4 years ago probably now, and of course times were just now starting to come back. So we bought some of those lots. If you notice, a lot of them are kind of ugly looking duplexes, just full of garages. I built some affordable homes in Imperial Valley where we actually had 3,500 square foot lots, and we built some narrow houses. And so rather than doing this big old duplex attached housing, we actually were able to put 2 houses. As you know, with, I don't know, was it AB 68? you can do an ADU. So we did a 4-bedroom, 1,400 square foot house, and then a detached, they're 100 by 100 lots. And then we did an ADU that the county allowed us to do, which was right at 1,200 square feet, was our 3-bedroom. And so I bought 3 lots, 2 across the street, 1 from the other, and so we ended up doing 6 units there. Highly successful. I wish I could do 100, and I'm hoping we can do some single-family stuff here, like I say, in Indio. We have done some commercial stuff, always interested in commercial. We're also a power sports dealer. I own Coin Power Sports in El Centro. That sits on about 6 acres in a 50,000 square foot building. We built that ourselves, and then we also developed the area around my dealership. We have a Starbucks, I built a Panera, we built a Habit Burger, and we also have a dealership in Banning. If you could look way, way back in the day, and maybe that come to realistic again, is I bought out 10 West Motorsports, if you guys recall that over there, in 2009 when they went bankrupt. But unfortunately, then we also had a landlord that didn't want to kind of participate to that whole thing, so it all kind of fell apart. But as you know, off-roading is very popular in our desert areas, and so we may consider coming back and doing some retails at some point in time in the future.
Perfect. And then I had one more question. What is the distance between the single-family homes, the Sun City Shadow Hills, that side, and where the 2-story buildings are going to be? Like, is there a little bit of a buffer? Is there, I couldn't quite tell by the design.
The answer is yes, and we don't have what we call our precise grading plan yet. But one, there's an easement, a utility easement between the single family that's on our property. So there's going to have to be a setback, and I believe that's the area that we've chosen. I don't know if I can work this thing and get it back, but I believe that's where we're also going to put our retention basin. So there'll definitely be some extra setback based on that. I can't really tell. Yeah, I can't really tell on that. That's just a concept drawing. So we recognize that out of respect for the homeowners. Between the easement and the retention basin, I think their neighbors in their 2-story house is going to have more access to than what our 2 stories apartments or apartment homes are going to affect.
And Chair, if I might add, if the project does come back to the commission, they'll have to design in conformance with applicable elements of the Unified Development Code, which includes transitions between higher density and lower density areas. So they'll have to plan for that transition, both in terms of building location, building height, which he's already noted will be 2 stories. So typically that's a mitigation. So you'll get an opportunity, another bite at the apple, so to speak, to be able to review this particular question in detail along with other site design elements.
And the other thing that's really important is just to know, and we found out almost too late, we understand there's a shortage of electricity. And I know that's going to change, but when we were told from IID, no electricity, it's going to be about 3 years and about $6 million for a substation. We thought, oh my gosh. The great part is we've had a great relationship with IID for 30 years down there, and they found a way to get us power, so we already have a will serve letter. And there's a lot of people that don't, so we're very, very thankful for that and ready to go to work as soon as we can get everything approved.
That's phenomenal. That's very important.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's what relationships are about.
Exactly. Any more questions of the applicant? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comments on the item?
There are none.
No. All right, with that in mind, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And do we have any deliberations, or is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. I just want to say I'd love to see higher density. This is a great thing. This is why our general plan looks like what it looks like. And so thank you to the applicant for considering that. And I'll make a motion to approve resolution. Can you put it up there, please?
2082.
2082.
I'll second the motion. We have a motion. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Rodriguez Ceja,
Yes.
Commissioner Isiano,
Yes.
Commissioner Fajardo,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Lopez,
Yes.
Chairperson Franz.
Yes. Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you for your time. See you soon.
Thank you. Kevin, since we just received a letter, can we take a minute to review it?
Chair, certainly. So this letter pertains to the remaining 2 items on the public hearing portion of your agenda. If the chair wants to take whatever time of recess for you and the commission to be able to review it, that is at your discretion.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and try for 10 minutes, and if we're not ready by then, we'll give ourselves another couple of minutes. Thank you. Okay, everybody ready? We good, Kevin? Yep, okay. All right, we'll go ahead and restart the meeting at 6:56 PM. If we could please continue with item 5.4, staff report regarding recommending to City Council the adoption of text and map amendments to the City of Indio's general plan and an amendment to the City of Indio zoning.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Again, for the record, Kevin Snyder, Director of Community Development. This item before you this evening is a legislative matter, and for the benefit of the public, what that means is this is not a development review consideration. This is a legislative matter or policy whereby the Commission, acting in your advisory roles and responsibility, would make an advisory recommendation on potential policy action to the City Council. So I just want to make it clear for the benefit of the that we are here this evening to discuss potential policy as it relates both to our general plan and our zoning map. So, as I stated already, this is a legislative process. The Planning Commission's responsibility is to conduct your public hearing, make a recommendation if you so choose to the City Council, hold its own public hearing, and ultimately make a decision on the proposed policy actions. So the proposal is what is often referred to as a change of organization. This pertains to approximately 36 acres, and it would be including this 36 acres in what is called the city's sphere of influence. Sphere of influence is a fancy term to say area that could be annexed into a city in the future. It's a designation that, in essence, is land in waiting, if you will, to be potentially annexed into a city at some point. The properties are located at the southeast corner of Avenue 50 and Jackson Street, both of which are public rights-of-way owned and operated by the City of Indio. The general plan amendment would be to establish what we call suburban neighborhood low land use designation. We also are looking to do what's called pre-zoning, which is a zoning map amendment to establish the zoning designation for those 36 acres, which would be suburban neighborhood 4, which is our lowest single-family zoning designation. It also, the proposal is for some text amendments to Chapter 3 of the general plan that pertain to this proposal. We're doing this under kind of the umbrella of what's called the Riverside Local Agency Formation Commission, or LAFCO. This body is an appointed body, and it overviews and considers proposals either by public entities or private parties to bring properties either into spheres of influence or to consider annexation. So this body has an application process. They do require that certain actions are taken by cities in advance of putting a formal application into them, and that is why we're here this evening to do that part of the process, whereby we potentially have the commission and the council take action, and ultimately that would be part of the application package that goes to Riverside LAFCO. So here is the location again. It's the areas, the properties outlined in red. It's at the southeast corner of Avenue 50 and Jackson Street. The other three corners of this intersection are within the city limits of the City of Indio. If you need some identifiers, LNG Market is to the immediate north, Trilogy is to the immediate west, and Indian Palms is to the immediate northwest. So this is an area that is that's largely built out, although there are some vacant parcels to the north, and obviously this area also has some vacant parcels along with lower density single family, as well as prominently on the corner an existing church. So the general plan amendment, it would be to, as I stated, and it's shown on the map here, would be to do a map amendment to establish that SNL, or suburban neighborhood low designation. The pre-zoning of the zoning map amendment would be, again, to establish the suburban neighborhood 4. Suburban neighborhood 4 is one step above kind of rural-oriented, low-density single-family. It's slightly more urban, but 4 dwelling units to the acre, so still pretty low density as it compares to other, the project we just talked about was 20 to 40 dwelling units to the acre. This would be a maximum of 4. If properties in this area were eventually developed, which they don't have to be. So on the staff analysis side, we looked at this. It is consistent with the General Plan 2040. It is also, there are a variety, and I won't go through all of them, but you can see them on the screen. There are a variety of reasons that we believe support the interest in this area. It includes the fact that we have public safety services within approximately 2 miles north of this particular area. There's an existing water line operated by the Indio Water Authority, which is part of the city of Indio, in Jackson Street between Avenue 50 and 52. It is also contiguous, as I mentioned, to the eastern city limits of the city of Indio. It's contiguous to public street rights-of-way that are owned and operated by the city of Indio. And then there are other reasons stated that include compliance with the general plan, particular policies, and also the fact that we believe that this is a logical extension of the city of Indio, again, having the city on 3 sides of that intersection, if you will. This also allows the city to ensure that there's continuous and contiguous and harmonious development on this particular southeast corner. So as it pertains to the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, the city in its lead agency capacity did perform an addendum. So an addendum is a method of environmental analysis. It does not require the full process that you might experience either for an EIR or an initial study that could result in either a negative declaration or a mitigated negative declaration. It's simply a detailed analysis to determine if there are any significant environmental impacts. And again, I will let you read, but to sum it up, we found that there are no significant environmental impacts by this minor inclusion of land, again, approximately 36 acres within the sphere of influence. So we are recommending that you approve Resolution 2083, recommending approval to the City Council. Right before at the beginning of this item, we did hand out a letter by the City of Coachella that you took an opportunity to review during our break. We also believe that representatives from the City of Coachella will be speaking to you this evening. Again, this is a legislative matter, so they certainly have the right and opportunity to speak and put their comments and concerns on record. Those will be documented in the meeting minutes for tonight, and the council will have the opportunity to review them as part of any consideration they may take if you choose to take action this evening. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions of staff at this time?
Sure. So, Kevin, the zoning designation that would go if we, do this amendment, why would we do this low density there? Like, what's the thought behind it? I know that they're currently, it's developed, right? I don't think that there's too many vacant lands within the parcels that are within the region or within the boundary. So I'm curious as to why this designation, if in our general plan, we have been consistently trying to increase the types of housing options that we have throughout the entire city.
It's a great question, Commissioner. So the land currently is designated by Riverside County, because it is a part of unincorporated Riverside County, for lower density development than what we are proposing. When looking at the appropriate zoning classification, staff felt that the SN4 was consistent and harmonious with the surrounding land use patterns. The Trilogy development to the east, although there are a lot of homes, the overall density is relatively low. It's within that 40 dwelling units the acre range as well. Same with Indian Palms, it's slightly higher at about 6. And then the properties to the north range anywhere from about 3 to 4 dwelling units to the acre. So from an overall consistency and compatibility framework, in terms of applying zoning, staff felt that it was an appropriate designation that would not be out of character, would not create undue impacts or burdens on both the existing land use patterns, as well as the public infrastructure serving those developments and possibly this area. Again, as I want to note, having a zoning designation does not mean that development will occur or has to occur. So a property owner if this was to ultimately come into the city of Indio and it did have a property owner had a SN4 zoning designation, they have no obligation to develop. If they choose to develop, they have the rights and responsibilities of that SM4 zoning designation.
Chair, I have follow-up. Can you maybe just verify, currently we have less than 1% of our designated land to multifamily homes. Is that correct? I think this is what I read might be in our housing element. I guess I just want to verify that number.
Can you help me with where you're getting that citation so I can go right to where you're looking at?
Yes. I did not write it down on my notes. Should be in our general plan where we have the percentage of land designation.
Off the top of my head, without doing research, I can attest, I can't attest to the percentage, but I can attest that overall the land area of the city of Indio is largely single-family in nature. We have a relatively low supply of multifamily residential for the overall size of the city, a city of almost 100,000 people, 33 square miles. Although that is changing, and you have been participants in that change. Recently, we've seen several new multifamily projects. You heard about one potential one tonight, and we have more projects that are being discussed preliminarily with staff. So we do see those numbers changing. However, I think in this area, from a professional perspective, doing more intense development that might result in higher density or higher intensity land use patterns, I think would be inconsistent with the overall land use pattern of the area. It would be different, I think, if the surrounding properties were undeveloped or sparsely developed, but they're largely developed out. And I do think that from a consistency and compatibility framework, it makes sense to stay kind of in harmony with those land use patterns.
And there are no operational, now I know that there is a nursery that is currently operating on that corner. Are there any sort of operational issues from this new designation?
So if this was to be ultimately approved, not only by the city, but ultimately by Riverside LAFCO, it being in the sphere still means it's within unincorporated Riverside County, and properties in unincorporated Riverside County are subject to the rules and regulations of Riverside County. It would only be at the time that if one or all of the properties, the 36 acres, was annexed into the city, that they would be subject to any city rules or regulation. The practice of the city is that when we annex, we are respectful and allow individuals to operate in the manner that they have been operating when they came into the city. If they choose to do things with their properties that are inconsistent with the adopted zoning regulations, at that point it might become an issue, but that has been, and it's fairly common practice in most cities, is to allow the property owners the enjoyment of the use of the property as they have been using it. If they want to expand, or if they do something that is in direct conflict with what is allowed, put a batch plant in, for example, then there might be concerns at that point.
And I have one last question, I promise. Have we engaged with any of the land identified?
Yes, we held a neighborhood meeting, an advertised and neighborhood meeting on November 14th. We've also had individual conversations with property owners. And have we talked to all of them? No. Because we have not engaged directly on a one-on-one basis, but we have spoken with several property owners out in the area and gotten their feedback, whether positive or negative.
Jackie?
Kevin, when is the next LAFCO meeting, and will our city be presenting at the next meeting?
I'd have to pull up the calendar, but they are meeting, I believe, on later in January. We will not be presenting. If the commission and ultimately the council do take actions on the items before you this evening, then the next step in the process is to put together an application package, and then that would be submitted to Riverside LAFCO staff. They will review it, and ultimately they would schedule a board consideration of the application by the city. Typically what we understand is that the staff processing can take anywhere from 30 to 45 days. So if for example, we were to submit in early February, they might be possibly looking at the city's request, say in April, perhaps.
And just a reminder, what was the direction that LAFCO gave the cities to work? Was it joint?
So that pertains to the next item on the agenda. This specific item is and I should note for the record, this particular area is already in the sphere of the city of Coachella. We believe that it more appropriately belongs in the city of Indio sphere, but what you're referring to, Vice Chair, is what I will discuss in the next item on the agenda. And I will acknowledge that what we are seeking this evening and from the council as well is unique, but we believe that from an overall consistency and harmonious land use pattern, as well as the fact that we do control the public rights way adjacent to these areas, that it makes more sense for this area to be in the city of Indio sphere and possibly be annexed into the city.
Any other questions of staff? No, not at this time? Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing on this item. And do we have requests to speak?
We do. We have a request from Megan Kilman.
Oh, if anybody wants to speak, please fill out your little request to speak that's up there and hand it to Pauline right here at the front, please. And I would like to remind everyone, for public speaking, we asked for 3 minutes, and hopefully everybody has a little bit different story. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Megan Kilmer. I am an attorney with Best Bess & Krieger, counsel for the City of Coachella. Earlier this afternoon, I submitted a written comment letter on behalf of the City of Coachella, objecting to the City of Indio's proposed expansion of its sphere of influence and related general plan and zoning amendment project. The City of Coachella opposes the project, and the comment letter raises specific objections under the California Environmental Quality Act to the addendum that the City of Indio prepared for the project. As explained in detail in Coachella's comment letter, the addendum violates CEQA for at least 5 reasons. First, preparation of an addendum to the City of Indio's General Plan Update Program Environmental Impact Report for this project is inappropriate. CEQA does not permit preparation of an addendum to a program EIR, whereas here, the proposed project was not contemplated or analyzed in the program EIR. Second, even absent this prohibition, the City of Indio lacks discretion to adopt the addendum because the addendum itself discloses that the project results in significant and unavoidable impacts to agricultural and air quality that were not previously analyzed in the general plan EIR. Third, the addendum does not comply with CEQA because it does not include any substantive environmental analysis of the project's potential environmental impacts and lacks any factual basis for its conclusions. Fourth, the addendum repeatedly asserts that the project would have less than significant impacts by complying with the general plan update policies and regulations, but the addendum fails to provide any factual support or explanation for this assertion. And fifth, because there is substantial evidence that the project will in fact have significant impacts on the environment, the city must prepare an EIR for the project. The addendum is fatally defective, and there is no substantial evidence supporting this conclusion, which violates CEQA. The City of Indio cannot proceed with the project without first complying with CEQA, and here, CEQA requires preparation of an environmental impact report. The City of Coachella urges this commission to deny the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a
We have another request to speak from Gabriel Perez.
Thank you, Planning Commission Chair, members of the Planning Commission, Gabriel Perez, Development Service Director with the City of Coachella. Here to object to this proposal. What was failed to mention in the presentation is that this area is in the sphere of influence for the City of Coachella. So we think it's important that the information be brought up straightforward, that it is within our sphere. We do have the general plan designations and zoning for the area. And so we think this proposal is being very dismissive of the city of Coachella. Sorry for the late letter. We just heard about this on Friday. So otherwise, had we heard about this earlier, been able to review the document, we would have provided this letter a lot more time in advance. Aside from the CEQA items, just so you know, the city of Indio has a northern sphere of influence where there is no general plan designations over there. We think this effort, the money spent on this effort, would have been better spent on establishing general plan designations in that northern area. This area is also in the water and sewer districts for the city of Coachella. And so there was no discussions with our utilities manager about encroaching into those districts. We don't think the Planning Commission can make the findings to support this under CEQA. It isn't consistent with the general plan. Your general plan planning area does not extend in this area. So we request that you deny the application. Thank you. And we're available for questions if you have any.
Thank you.
Our next public comment is from Maria Insunza.
Good evening, and I'm not ready to I didn't prepare a speech, but I'm ready to, encourage you to approve the annexation. I'm an owner of a property located in the area of the sphere, and it was, we purchased this land, my parents purchased this land in 1974. And it was joint, there's a lot of owners. My parents are deceased. We lived there, and my kids were raised there. And we have plans to develop the land, but unfortunately the county of Riverside doesn't allow us to divide the property according to the number of owners. So we are pretty much in favor of an annexation of the land to Indio. And this process started in 1986. As I recall, one of our neighbors, Mr. Romero, who lived on Jackson Street, came around and asked for signatures, came to the city of Indio, and we never heard since then. So this process started a long time ago. And unfortunately, somebody dropped the ball, and we were too busy taking care of our parents. Our parents became ill, and our land was technically abandoned, vandalized, and I have a lot of stories to tell, but there's a lot of emotional attachment to that property, and we do want to subdivide. And because it belongs to the county has a lot of restrictions, and we already attempted. So we are much in favor of an annexation. I can't say it right. The annexation to Indio. We are closer to Indio. The fire department is right on Jackson Street. The police department is also on Jackson Street. When we ask for police or fire, Indio comes first because we're so close to Indio. And we had an incident where the property was caught on fire. We had a fire, and the Indio fire department came. And police, we rely on the county, which is in Thermal. It takes a long time. When we ask for police support to evict people that were living in the property unauthorized. It took me a long time to get police to come in and evict the people that were there. So I'm pretty much in favor of you considering the annexation of our property to Indio, because we're closer to Indio. I live in Indio, but eventually I would like to move back and develop with my children. I have 3 children, and form the rancho. We had a rancho. My parents raised us where they had cows, they had goats, pigs. My mother used to make cheese and sell the cheese to the local supermarket of Jalisco's, it's not Guadalajara's. People knew her. When we were cleaning the property last year, people came, saw the gates open, and I said, is Doña Maria still here? We used to buy cheese from her.
Thank you,
And we
ma'am.
love her.
We
My
have
time is-
3
thank you.
minutes. Thank you so much. We appreciate
Okay.
your time.
We have an online comment from Juan Munoz. Juan, you will have 3 minutes to speak. You may go ahead and talk.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. Can you hear me? And if so, I just would like to point out that I am a property owner, and I'm in support of low density. Also, I want to point out that our property is currently being serviced with water by the city of Indio. So my property is on the south side of the street on Jackson, and we do have water services. So there is a line running in front of our property, and water goes across the street to serve our property. That's pretty much the only comment I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, chairpersons, members of the commission. Gabriel Martin, city manager for the city of Coachella. Mr. Snyder, how are you all doing tonight? Thank you for listening to us. As you know, my comments will be brief. First of all, this addendum violates CEQA, and moving forward with this item may lead to further litigations between both cities. Number two, the city of Coachella is investing a lot of infrastructure in this project. We have a grant water project that will bring water from Jackson down to from Avenue 48 down to Jackson, that will give water to about 12 parcels. Right now, we're in design to bring water and sewer from down Avenue 51 and down Avenue 52. So the city is investing anywhere from $6 to $8 million to bring water and sewer, because this area is still within our water and sewer district. And number two, just from a good neighbor policy, it's not nice to steal fear of influences from your neighbors. So that the city was very upset with Indio when we got this letter or this addendum, and we are going to take this to our city council to discuss as well. So please take that into consideration. We're here to answer any questions, comments, and we appreciate your time and efforts.
Thank you. Are there any more public comments?
There are none.
Good evening, planning commissioners. My name is Selena Jimenez, and I'm a resident of the city of Indio, but I also happen to work for the city of Coachella as its director of economic development. And I won't be able to say too much. I just had dental surgery today. So I just wanted to come up and tell you that aside from all the environmental and infrastructure concerns that people have already expressed, I just want to express my concern for the economic impacts that an annexation by Indio would have on our city. As you know, just the geographic location of the property and even just the remaining lands that remained available for development, it just makes more sense to retain these areas for economic development reasons. And so I just wanted to convey that to you all, that it's not just the environmental and the infrastructure needs, it's also the economic development for the city, since as you all know, we are kind of running out of space where people can do infill infrastructure developments or even just other developments that make sense. And so I just wanted to convey that to you. And those are all my comments. I oppose this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Paulina, any more?
There are no more comments.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. And do we have any questions of staff or any comments or deliberations among the commissioners?
Kevin, are there any other areas considered to be within both cities' sphere of influence that are not part of this proposal?
In terms of being contiguous?
Yes.
So actually, the next item is a similar consideration that is between the two cities. It's often referred to as P7 or Pocket 7, and we'll get to that in a minute. There is, it was referenced earlier in one of the public comments about the northern sphere. That is an area that is part of the City of Indio's sphere. This commission ultimately, in adopting the general plan, identified that. Just for the record, I would note that the City of Indio City Council allocated money for the pre-planning of that area that we hope to start in this calendar year. So we are actually going to be working on that area. The concern was raised that we weren't focusing our attention up there, but we are. So there are areas that, obviously being adjacent cities, we do have proximity, both in terms of some of our city limits and also some of our spheres. In this instance, we do have proximity. And as noted, and as I noted at the end of my presentation, this particular area, the 36 acres, is currently within the sphere of the City of Coachella. We acknowledge that and accept that. That's factual record. But for the reasons I stated earlier, that's why we are recommending the Commission and the Council consider the potential inclusion of this area within the City's of Indio sphere, which will ultimately be determined by Riverside LAFCO.
And then my apologies. I just wanted to note for the record that there are obviously claims being advanced by the City of Coachella and its representatives and legal staff. There are obviously factual bases on both parts, as well as the idea that this information is very recently been contributed to the discussion, and therefore should be considered as such. And therefore, I think it's important to base all of our decisions on all of the information that's been presented and all of the amount of time that's been that it has been available for consideration.
Deliberations? Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm glad that we were presented with this, but I don't think that we had enough time to really take a look at it and hear from you and help you give us some direction. This feels a little premature to me. I will say for myself, I'm interested in seeing more housing options coming to District 5, which this would technically, I believe, be added to this district. And it just seems like it's in contradiction to what we have been trying to do. And so from my 2 cents, I would say I don't know that I would feel like I have enough information to even make any sort of decision at this moment, and also that it feels like this is our desire to look at this area for our sphere of influence is not actually consistent with what we are doing as a city for this area. Now, I heard the residents, I actually got a chance to speak to one of the landowners. They gave me a call earlier today, which was fantastic and surprising, to express their concern about the way that things are. And so I said, okay, I'll take that with me to understand that this might not necessarily be an area that we as a city want to tap into, since it's not consistent with what we've been trying to do with our general plan. Those are my comments.
Any comments? No, at this time. Nothing? Okay, I just want to make a comment just because, Christian made his comment, so now I have to make my comment. As much as I agree with you that the city as a whole, we are trying to increase density, provide different types of housing units so that hopefully most of the people can have a home, right? That's the goal. But having that high density is definitely going to be in certain parts of our city, not in all of our city. And that edge of city has always been lower density. So I think the fact that staff has tried to keep that area consistent with what is there, even though it has gone from 5-acre ranches to 4 units an acre. So it's already changed, and it might change again in 10 years or 15 years down the road. So I don't think that's inconsistent. I also want to remind the commissioners that this is a recommendation to council. So we don't get to make this final decision. So I think what we're having, at least for me, what we're having to look at is what our staff has put together, what they've brought to us, and is this something that we think council would want to see done in our city? know that that corner, I mean, I grew up in Coachella, and then my whole adult life I lived in Indio, so I never even worried about whether it was Coachella or Indio, right? But most of the corners are Indio, 3 out of 4. So I just want to, have that kind of statement out there. But, I wish we could have gotten a little more time with this statement, but I'm also not an attorney, and I have to follow the recommendations of our legal and our staff as well, to go from there. But I'd like to see if we have any other comments or a motion at this time.
I want to make a motion to approve Resolution 2083, recommending to the City Council the adoption of the text and map amendments to the City of Indio General Plan and map amendment to the City of Indio zoning map for the change of organization to a certain geographic area outside the city limits, and approving it to City Council. Just all the staff recommendation. Sorry, I can read the whole thing.
Second?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Can I please have roll call vote?
Commissioner Rodriguez Ceja,
No.
Commissioner Isiano,
Yes.
Commissioner Fajardo,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Lopez,
Yes.
Chairperson Franz,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, we'll continue with our public hearing items. Item number 5.5 is recommending to the City Council the adoption of text and map amendments to the City General Plan and a map amendment to the City of Indio zoning map. We have staff report, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, members of the Commission, again, Kevin Snyder, Director of Community Development. This item is very similar to the previous one with some notable distinctions that I'll go through in a minute. But to remind you, again, we are in a legislative process. This is a policy-making process, as just noted by the Chairperson in her comments. You are a recommending body only, no decision-making authority. That is reserved to the City Council as a legislative action. The proposal, again, is to incorporate approximately 220 acres into the sphere of influence of the City of Indio. This 220 acres is located east of Jackson Street. It is located west of Calhoun, north of Avenue 52, and a little bit south of Avenue 50. As I mentioned in the earlier item, this area has been referred to by a variety of names, but the municipal service review that the Riverside LAFCO completed in 2022 commonly referred to it as P7 or Pocket 7. Again, we are proposing for Commission's consideration and recommendation to Council, general plan map amendment, zoning map amendment. The general plan map amendment would be to designate this area with what's called Desert Estates neighborhood, which is our rural-oriented, low-density, single-family neighborhood designation. The zoning designation would be what we call Desert Estates Transition 3, so up to 3 dwelling units per acre, again, more rural-oriented, lower density, and then also associated text amendments to the general plan to support this action. As I mentioned before, in the previous item, Riverside LAFCO is the final decision maker on any application that the city might make regarding the potential inclusion of this area in the city's sphere of influence. Again, sphere of influence is kind of that first step for properties that may ultimately come into the incorporated municipal limits of a city. That's through annexation. Being in a sphere, the properties that we are discussing right now would still be subject to the rules and regulations of Riverside County, because being in the sphere means that they are still part of unincorporated Riverside County. They're not officially within the city limits of the City of Indio. This map shows what I just described. It is this area, and something to note is, again, this is approximate to the eastern city limits of the City of Indio. To the immediate west is Trilogy at the Polo Club, which is within the city limits of the city. So this is contiguous to the current city limits of the City of Indio, and also is contiguous to Jackson Street, which is publicly owned and operated by the City of Indio. The general plan amendment, as I mentioned, would be for Desert Estates neighborhood. The zoning map or pre-zoning would be for Desert Estates Transition 3. Again, we went through the analysis. We do believe that it is overall consistent with the general plan Again, it is proximate to public safety services provided by the City of Indio. It is adjacent to a significant water line operated by the Indio Water Authority in Jackson Street. It can be served off of Jackson Street, which is a public right-of-way owned and operated by the city. And again, as I noted in the earlier presentation, we do believe that it complies with the general plan's vision for the city, will result in a harmonious and contiguous and compatible land use pattern. One thing I want to note about this particular area is that in 2022, the Riverside LAFCO completed its municipal service review. And what that really is it's a state mandated action where LAFCOs throughout the state have to analyze the ability of local governments to serve with infrastructure and other services areas that are either intended for annexation, they're already in the sphere, or areas that might be considered for a sphere inclusion. This P7 area was a topic of conversation during that municipal service review. It was a topic of direct conversation between the cities of Coachella and Indio. I, along with some of the representatives from the City of Coachella, participated in meetings, face-to-face meetings on this. It was also discussed during the municipal service review hearings at Riverside LAFCO. At the conclusion of the municipal service review process, the Riverside LAFCO Commission directed the cities to work together to come up with a, for lack of a word, a compromise on P7 because we were both interested in it. And we at the city feel that we are in good faith towards that direction. We reached out, we attempted to have several meetings, and we were at one point told that there was no interest. So we do feel that we operated in good faith with the direction of the Riverside LAFCO Commission and did attempt to have those conversations to come up with a compromise that could be brought back. And that compromise also, that direction also included engaging with residents in the area to get their feedback as well. So our proposal at that time to the City of Coachella was, let's have joint meetings. Let's talk jointly with the residents in the area and see what they want and what their thoughts and concerns are. We were rebuffed, and I'm putting that on the record because that is actually what happened. So this area has been a source of discussion for a number of years. I'm going on 5 years with the city, and 3.5 of those years, this has been a topic that I've been in discussions with, either both internally and with Coachella officials and also Riverside LAFCO. So we do believe that, that for all the reasons stated in the staff report and also represented on the presentation, that we do believe that this area is appropriately and rightly should be considered for inclusion within the City of Indio's sphere of influence. Again, being in the sphere of influence, just to state for the record, does not mean that you're annexed. So property owners in the area who may be watching or in attendance, if you're concerned that suddenly you're going to be in the city limits of the City of Indio, if this was to be approved, ultimately, no, that is not the case. And if you are included in the sphere, there is a whole separate annexation process that one has to go through. And again, if you are operating your property in a certain way, our business practice of the city is we work with you to continue to allow you to have those operations. In this area, there are a number of ranchitos that operate. We have had several conversations with property owners out there. We are committed to working on developing regulations that support the ranchitos. These regulations also would support some of similar operations within the municipal limits of the city. And this commission, hopefully not too far down the road, will be having discussions with you about those regulations and getting your feedback. So with that, I do want to note that, again, this was subject to CEQA. We went through that same addendum process, and we do believe that it adequately and appropriately demonstrates that there is de minimis or no significant environmental impacts associated with this action. And we are recommending that the Commission approve resolution number 2084 and make a recommendation to Council for this particular inclusion in the sphere of influence. With that, happy to answer any questions the Commission might have.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions for staff at this time? Nope. Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. And do we have anyone who wants to speak on this item?
We have Megan Kilmer.
Thank you. I just want to incorporate by reference the comments that I made in agenda item 5.4. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have a public comment from Gabriel Perez.
Thank you again, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Gabriel Perez, Development Service Director again. Similar comments, but we are concerned about, our interest in bringing this into our sphere of influence is because it once was part of our sphere of influence. In 2006, we thought it was wrongfully removed from our sphere of influence and provided in La Quinta sphere of influence. La Quinta ultimately decided they couldn't service the area, and LAFCO ultimately decided not to put it in anyone's sphere of influence. This is also within our water service boundary, as well as our sewer service boundary for the city. We do have capital projects that are planned for the area. One of the things that we acknowledged in the addendum that was prepared here is that Indio has no plans to be able to extend services to existing residents, only if development is proposed. And so I'm sure the existing residents in the area would like those services extended to them and not wait for development to occur. We do have an agreement with the Coachella Valley Water District to provide water and sewer in that area. Those areas are addressed as Coachella today, but we really ask you to really look at the CEQA issues. At the end of the day, we think you're going to have to start from scratch on this whole CEQA review process. But so we oppose this action, but we're happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Our next comment is from Gabriel Martin. Final comment is from Selena Jimenez. There are no more comments.
Thank you. With that in mind, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this item. And do we have any more questions of staff or deliberation among ourselves or a motion?
No comments? Then I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve resolution 2084, recommending approval to the City Council.
A motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. If we can please have roll call vote.
Commissioner Rodriguez Ceja,
No.
Commissioner Isiano,
Yes.
Commissioner Fajardo,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Lopez,
Yes.
Chairperson Franz,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. Okay, we will move on to, there are no action items, there are no study session items. Do I have any commissioner comments at this time? None? No? Yes? Okay. Do we have any staff items at this time?
Just a brief update. We continue to see a high volume of activity both in the planning and building side of our aisles. I have my building team actually preparing stats that I'll share with the Planning Commission, but we had a very active year. Even with the change in mortgage interest rates and the cost of lending going up, we have still seen significant activity, still a lot of interest in projects. In terms of, you constantly hear about the situation around IID and how that's impacting not only the city of Indio, but the cities of La Quinta and Coachella. As the commission may be aware, the city council, in partnership with IID, did form the Indio Electrical Finance Authority. That body, we got authorization to issue bonds, and we did issue bonds, approximately $60 million of bonds. Those bonds will, bond proceeds will allow the city to construct an initial 4 of the 9 needed substations in the city of Indio. And as a reminder, those locations are Dr. Carrion, Avenue 42, Northgate, and also the 4th location will be at the Pulte project that you reviewed. That location actually will serve the entirety of Northwest Indio, and they will be a financial partner in that substation. So we are moving forward to address the electrical service needs in our community. Unfortunately, as it's often jokingly referred to, you can't buy this off the shelf and you can't go to Amazon. So we have submitted our orders from cradle to grave, from submitting the order to actually having installation. It's approximately 24 months. So we are hopeful that we'll have facilities in the ground, hopefully in sometime in 2026. And then we'll be able to help begin to mitigate the impacts of the electrical service needs. Those locations I mentioned were also chosen strategically in coordination with IID because they will also balance and relieve some of the impacts on existing substations so that the service demands on some existing substations will go down. So I just wanted to make the commission aware of that because this is all public record, and we're looking forward to being able to take a bite out, so to speak, of the future electrical service need of the city with these actions. Your your next January meeting, January 24th, you will have several items on the agenda that evening, and February and March are shaping up to be busy as well. So unfortunately, we will probably inundate you with anywhere between 3 to 5 agenda items per meeting. That's just the way that, unfortunately, the things are lining up. And so we do ask for your patience and understanding as we bring a variety of projects before you. But the good news is that people are still interested in doing business and doing development in our city. And as I stated earlier, we're getting a lot more interest in multifamily development in our city, which I think is indicative of the fact that there is both a significant need and a significant market interest. So hopefully that means that we'll see more multifamily projects in our city that will provide an opportunity for residents of our city to have more diverse living options. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have one question. Are we the only city that's leading this JPA? Are there other cities not doing anything?
The City of Indio is the only participant in the JPA with IID at this time.
Yeah, IAFO was created specifically as a JPA between the City of Indio and IID. So I know that it was the result of many years of seeking to expand our electrical infrastructure. So I was involved in the creation of all those documents. So.
If there are no other comments, I had a request the other day from a resident wanting to know about the apartments on Jefferson, the big ones. When they were going to, if they're already taking applications. I know they had put it out for an interested list, but when they were going to start actually having people be able to move in. Any idea?
So we understand that they may be phase 1, which is the most northern portion of the project. There are 2 phases. Phase 1 is 184 units. Phase 2 is 216 units. We understand that they're hopeful to be able to have occupancy of phase 1 later in 2024. They are working on electrical service infrastructure for that project. As you may remember, there are 400 units, and the last we heard, there are 10,000 people on the waiting list for 400 units. So that underlies the need we were just talking about.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? Okay, we'll go ahead then and adjourn the Planning Commission meeting to our next regular meeting on January 24th, 2024. Thank you, everybody.